All right, today we're jumping into something that could completely rewire the economic future of an entire continent. We're talking about Africa's massive digital switch. So let's get right into it.
You know, this didn't exactly blow up the global headlines, but something just happened that's, well, it's way more than just an update. It's a fundamental shift. A really quiet change, but one that's signaling a brand new era for business, for tech, and for investment all across Africa.
And that really gets us to the heart of what we're talking about today. It's this huge question, right? It sounds like a wild thought experiment, but it's not an experiment anymore. This is real. So what actually happens when an entire continent, we're talking 54 countries, flips the switch on digital trade all at once?
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to start right here. This is the first big thing to understand. We're not talking about another policy paper or some agreement that was signed and filed away. No, a switch has literally been flipped. This is happening now. It's all about execution.
And here's the key detail. The digital trade part of the AfCFTA, Africa's enormous free trade area, it's now officially operational. It's gone from just being an idea on paper to being real, live, and in practice. And believe me, that one event is the domino that starts everything else falling into place.
So you might be asking, why is this such a big deal? Well, to really feel the impact, we've got to take a step back and look at how things used to be. We need to understand the old fragmented system that put up so many roadblocks to digital growth.
And this really paints the picture, doesn't it? The before and after is just stark. So put yourself in the shoes of a startup, right? Before this, you were looking at 54 separate sets of rules for everything from digital payments to data privacy. It meant you had to basically rebuild your entire business model for every single new country you entered. It was like a giant maze of locked doors. But now, with one single framework for the whole continent, all those doors are just swinging wide open. That friction is just melting away, creating one massive open market.
And what unlocks all this potential? It's this new Continental rulebook. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a master key. One key that opens up Africa's entire digital economy.
So what is this thing, this digital trade protocol? At its core, it's just a single, harmonized set of rules. It takes all that insane complexity of doing digital business across borders and just standardizes it. And by doing that, it's turning 54 separate, walled-off markets into one big, connected digital economy.
And here's how it actually works, step by step. The protocol basically goes after the four biggest headaches, the main points of friction. First, it aligns the rules for data flowing across borders. Second, it harmonizes digital payments so they work everywhere. Third, it standardizes things like e-signatures. And finally, it creates unified rules for digital platforms and marketplaces. See? Each step is like knocking down another wall.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. This is the so what moment. I mean, standardizing rules is fine, but what does it actually do? What's the real-world impact for a small business, or an investor, or the economy as a whole? Why is unlocking this kind of scale such a game changer?
Well, for one, it creates a whole new set of winners. Think about it. Small and medium-sized businesses can now dream continent-wide right from the get-go. Investors? They're looking at way less risk and much more potential for huge, scalable returns. And for whole sectors like fintech and logistics, this creates the perfect playground to build real regional powerhouses.
Yeah, and this chart just lays it out so clearly. Let's take an SME, a small business. That massive cost of trying to sell in another country, poof, it's basically gone. They can sell to customers all across the continent without needing a physical office in every single place. Now, for an investor, regulatory uncertainty is the big boogeyman, right? Well, that's being replaced with clarity, which de-risks everything. And for the big platforms, they can finally plan one single expansion strategy for Africa instead of having to create 54 different ones. That is huge.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of it all. The ability to build once and deploy many times. I mean, that's it. That's the holy grail for any tech company, for any service business. It's the fundamental difference between launching a bunch of small, separate little projects and building a truly massive, continent-wide business.
All right, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. What does this all mean on a strategic level? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It's about going from trying to solve 54 different puzzles to playing on one single unified game board.
This was the old way. 54. If you wanted to do business in Africa, you needed 54 separate strategies, 54 different compliance plans, 54 different ways to enter the market. The complexity was just staggering.
And now, this is the new reality. Just one framework.
Now, that doesn't mean every market is suddenly identical, of course not, but it means they're all running on the same basic digital tracks. It's an incredible simplification that, honestly, changes the entire game.
You know, we have to talk about the historic compromise that made this whole thing possible. It's really a massive strategic trade-off. Essentially, nations across the continent collectively decided to cede a little bit of their individual regulatory control in exchange for access to a massive, continent-sized market. It's a give a little to get a lot kind of deal.
And that leads us to what might be the single most powerful idea in all of this quote right here. Africa is standardizing before it fully scales. Just let that sink in for a second. Think about Europe or other blocs. They grew first, got big and complicated, and then tried to go back and harmonize all the rules. And it's incredibly painful and difficult. Africa is flipping the script. It's building the standardized foundation first, so that when the growth really takes off, it's ready. That sequencing, doing it in this order, that could be the secret weapon.
So, we'll leave you with this final thought. The rules of the game have fundamentally changed. The world isn't dealing with a fragmented collection of markets anymore. It now has to engage with a single, more unified digital Africa. So as this massive economic bloc really starts to use its new scale, the question isn't if the rest of the world will notice. The real question is, how are they going to adapt?